You've been lying to yourself. That idea, that dream, that goal you've been nurturing for months, perhaps years, it remains just that, an idea, not reality. And deep down, you know exactly why. Every morning you wake up thinking, today will be different. Yet night falls, and you find yourself in the same position, with the same unfulfilled promises. This pattern isn't just frustrating, it's destroying your potential, one delayed decision at a time. What if I told you that the greatest barrier between you and extraordinary success isn't talent, education, or connections, but your inability to take decisive action? The truth about achievement that most people never grasp is startlingly simple. Ideas without action are worthless. The world doesn't reward dreamers, it rewards doers. Those who force themselves to take action, especially when every instinct screams for comfort and safety. Consider this. How many opportunities have slipped through your fingers while you were getting ready to seize them? How many times have you watched others succeed with ideas you had years ago? What's the real cost of your hesitation? In my decades, studying the most successful individuals across every field, I've discovered a universal truth. The ability to force yourself into action, particularly when you don't feel ready, is the single greatest determinant of success. Not intelligence, not background, not luck. Action! The wealthy businessman who started with nothing didn't wait until conditions were perfect. The renowned artist didn't wait for inspiration. The influential leader didn't wait until they felt qualified. They acted, often before they felt ready, almost always before others thought they should. You're failing not because your ideas lack merit, but because you've fallen into society's deadliest trap, the belief that preparation, planning, and perfection must precede action. This is precisely backward. Let me be clear, your brain is deceiving you. That voice insisting you need more research, more tools, more confidence before starting, it's not wisdom. It's fear disguised as prudence. What separates the extraordinary from the ordinary isn't their absence of fear, but their relationship with action. The extraordinary understand a fundamental truth. Action isn't the result of motivation. Action creates motivation. They don't wait to feel ready. They act until they become ready. Most people have the equation backward. They believe the sequence is learn, plan, feel confident, then act. This is why they remain stuck. The true sequence of success is radically different. Act first, learn from the results, adjust your approach, and act again. Confidence and clarity don't precede action, they follow it. Every moment you spend in preparation beyond the essential is a form of sophisticated procrastination. Your detailed research, your perfect plans, your waiting for the right time, these aren't signs of diligence, they're symptoms of. Ask yourself honestly, what action have you been avoiding under the guise of getting ready? What call have you postponed making? What project have you delayed starting? What conversation have you been rehearsing but never having? This avoidance isn't just costing you opportunities, it's rewiring your brain to make inaction your default state. Every time you hesitate when you should act, you're not just delaying success, you're strengthening neural pathways of procrastination. You're literally training yourself to fail. The most dangerous consequence isn't just the immediate opportunities lost, it's the person you're becoming, someone who habitually chooses comfort over growth, someone who consistently allows fear to overrule ambition. What you must understand is that action itself possesses an almost magical quality. It cuts through confusion and creates clarity. It generates energy where lethargy existed. It produces confidence where doubt once ruled. The successful individuals I've studied throughout my life don't have some magical ability to take action. What they possess is the understanding that action must come first, before certainty, before confidence, before perfect conditions. They grasp what most never will, that forcing yourself to take action, especially when you don't feel ready, isn't just the path to achievement, it's the path to becoming the kind of person capable of achievement. Consider the law of inertia. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion. Objects at rest tend to stay at rest. The same principle applies to your life and achievements. The hardest action is always the first one. Each subsequent action becomes easier until action itself becomes your natural state. This is why the most successful people focus not on grand, perfect plans, but on immediate, imperfect actions. They understand that momentum, once created, becomes self-sustaining. Your problem isn't that you don't know what to do. Your problem is that you don't do what you know. The quality of your life isn't determined by the quality of your ideas or intentions, but by the quality of your actions. Nothing else. The market doesn't reward your potential. It rewards your performance. The world doesn't care what you're capable of doing. It cares what you actually do. Every day, countless individuals with extraordinary potential fade into mediocrity, not because they lack ability, but because they fail to force themselves into action. They wait for conditions they believe will make action easier, conditions that rarely arrive. What separates the successful from the unsuccessful isn't their starting position, their resources, or even their talents. It's their willingness to force themselves to take that first terrifying step, and then the next, and the next. The brutal truth most will never accept is that success requires you to act before you feel ready. Before you have all the answers, before the path is entirely clear. The path becomes clear, not by thinking about it, but by walking it. The answers come not from endless planning, but from engaged action. The feeling of readiness comes not before you begin, but after you've already started. Consider the cost of your hesitation. Every day you delay taking decisive action. Your dreams don't wait patiently. They erode. Opportunities don't circle back. They move on to those willing to seize them immediately. What goal have you been postponing? What action have you been avoiding? What if today, this very moment, you rejected the lie that you're not ready? What if instead of saying, "I'll start when," you simply said, "I'll start now"? The greatest tragedy isn't failure, it's the failure to try. It's the brilliant ideas never expressed, the businesses never started, the books never written, the connections never made. All because of the fatal belief that action should follow perfect preparation. I challenge you to reverse this thinking entirely, to embrace the truth that has transformed ordinary individuals into extraordinary achievers throughout history. Action comes first. Everything else follows. In the next part, I'll reveal the specific principles that will transform you from someone who knows but doesn't do into someone who consistently forces themselves to take immediate, decisive action, regardless of fear, doubt, or uncertainty. But first, ask yourself, what single action have I been avoiding that, if taken today, could begin to change everything? The power to force yourself into action isn't a trait you're born with. It's a skill you develop, a muscle you strengthen through specific, deliberate practice. The principles I'm about to share aren't theory or philosophy. They're battle-tested strategies drawn from the lives of history's greatest achievers. Principle 1. The 5-second rule of action. Most believe decisions are made through careful deliberation, but the truth is that your brain makes its choice in the first 5 seconds. Beyond that window, fear takes control. When an opportunity, idea, or necessary action presents itself, you have exactly 5 seconds to act before your mind creates a reason not to. 5 seconds to pick up the phone, to speak up in the meeting, to begin the project, to have the difficult conversation. Count backward. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then move. This isn't a suggestion. It's a command. This simple countdown interrupts the habitual pattern of hesitation and creates the neural bridge between thought and action. Consider how Alexander Graham Bell, faced with countless reasons his telephone wouldn't work, gave himself no choice but immediate experimentation. While others deliberated, he acted. The result wasn't just invention but transformation. From this moment forward, you will not allow more than 5 seconds to pass between recognition of necessary action and movement toward it. This isn't about feeling ready, it's about refusing to allow feelings to dictate behavior. When that voice says later, you will count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and act immediately. Not tomorrow, not when conditions improve. Now, Principle 2. The decisive minimum action. Most fail because they believe meaningful action must be perfect and complete. This paralyzes initiative. The truth is that success comes from identifying and taking the smallest action that creates forward momentum. For every goal, there exists a decisive minimum action, the smallest, simplest step that commits you to the path and makes retreat more difficult than advance. This isn't about completing the journey in one bound, it's about making standing still impossible. Edison didn't create the light bulb in one attempt. He identified the first, minimally viable experiment and executed it immediately. Each small action created momentum for the next, resulting in eventual mastery. Your task is to identify the single smallest action that moves your goal from thought to reality, then take that action within the next hour. Not a perfect action, not a complete action, just the first necessary action. If you're starting a business, don't write a business plan. Contact one potential customer today. If you're writing a book, don't outline chapters. Write one paragraph now. If you're improving your health, don't design a complete fitness regime. Do 10 push-ups immediately. The decisive minimum action isn't about achieving the goal, it's about crossing the threshold from intention to action. It transforms you from someone who will act someday to someone who is acting now. Principles 3. The commitment device. Your future self is a coward and a liar. It will promise action but choose comfort when the moment arrives. The masters of action understand this and create conditions that make inaction more painful than action. A commitment device is a decision made in a moment of clarity that removes future choice when willpower inevitably falters. It transforms action from a matter of daily decision to a matter of predetermined commitment. Andrew Carnegie didn't rely on daily motivation. He structured his life to make action inevitable. His commitments to partners, employees, and customers created a system where action wasn't optional, it was required. Your commitment device might be public announcement of your goals, financial investment that will be lost if you don't act, or partnerships that create accountability beyond yourself. The specific form matters less than the function to make the cost of inaction higher than the cost of action. Starting today, you will create one commitment device for your most important goal. Whether financial, social, or structural, this device will ensure that even when motivation fades, as it inevitably will, action remains the path of least resistance. This isn't about inspiration or willpower, it's about architecture. Design your environment so that action becomes the default rather than the exception. Principle 4. The 48-hour implementation rule. Ideas decay. With each passing hour, the likelihood of implementation drops exponentially. What isn't acted upon within 48 hours of conception rarely materializes. The 48-hour implementation rule states that for any worthy idea, some tangible action must be taken within 48 hours, or the idea must be consciously abandoned, not postponed, abandoned. This creates a binary decision that eliminates the purgatory of someday where most potential dies. Henry Ford didn't simply contemplate the assembly line. He immediately tested components of the process, turning concept into reality before doubt and distraction could intervene. From this moment forward, you will either act on new ideas within 48 hours or deliberately release them. This isn't harsh, it's clarifying. It transforms you from someone drowning in potential to someone defined by execution. For the idea currently most important to you, identify one action you can take in the next 48 hours that makes the concept real rather than theoretical. Then execute that action regardless of convenience or comfort. Principles 5. The daily action audit. At day's end, there's only one question that determines your trajectory. What actions did I take today that moved me toward my definite chief aim? Not what you learned, not what you planned, not what you felt, what you... The daily action audit forces brutal honesty about the gap between intention and action. Each evening, document the specific actions taken toward your primary goal, not justifications, not preparations. Action. Rockefeller famously accounted for every penny in his ledgers. Your most valuable currency isn't money, it's action. Account for it with equal rigor. This audit isn't just record-keeping, it's recalibration. It ensures that days don't pass without tangible movement, that weeks don't dissolve into mere busyness rather than progress. Beginning tonight, and every night hereafter, you will conduct this audit with uncompromising honesty. You'll measure not your intentions, knowledge, or plans, but your actions alone. These principles aren't suggestions or strategies, they're imperatives. The difference between those who achieve extraordinary results and those who merely dream isn't knowledge of these principles, but implementation. You now possess the exact blueprint used by history's greatest achievers to force themselves into action, regardless of circumstance, mood, or apparent readiness. In the final part, I'll show you how to transform these principles from intellectual understanding into your natural operating system. To make decisive action, not something you occasionally force, but who you fundamentally are. But first, Choose one principle from those I've shared and implement it in the next 60 minutes. Not tomorrow. Not when it's convenient. Now, remember, ideas without action aren't just postponed, they're abandoned. Which will you choose for yours? You now stand at the most critical juncture in your journey toward extraordinary achievement. You possess the principles that have transformed ordinary individuals into legends. Yet knowledge without implementation is worthless. I understand the resistance you feel, the temptation to bookmark these ideas for later consideration, to nod in agreement rather than move in response, to appreciate the wisdom rather than apply it. This hesitation isn't unique to you. It's the default human condition. The pull toward comfort, toward the known, toward postponement is biological. It's written into your neural pathways through years of habitual inaction. But that biology is not your destiny. That hesitation is not your identity, unless you choose it to be. The truth is, you don't need more information. You don't need more motivation. You don't need more time. These are all disguises for fear, sophisticated justifications for continued inaction. From this moment forward, you must make a fundamental choice. Will you be a person who knows what to do, or a person who does what they know? The gap between these two identities is not a matter of knowledge, ability, or circumstance. It's a matter of decision. A decision you must make now, not eventually. Today, not tomorrow. Most will choose comfort. They'll close this video impressed but unchanged. They'll think about action rather than take it. They'll wait for certainty that never arrives, for perfect conditions that don't exist, for feelings of readiness that action itself creates. Don't be most people. The consequences of continued inaction extend far beyond the goals you fail to achieve. Each time you recognize necessary action, but hesitate, you're reinforcing neural pathways of procrastination. You're literally training your brain to choose comfort over growth, safety over possibility, mediocrity over excellence. Conversely, each time you force yourself to act despite fear or uncertainty, you're strengthening neural pathways of decisiveness. You're training your brain to make action your default response to opportunity. This isn't just about what you achieve, it's about who you become. Every decision to act or hesitate is reshaping your identity at the neurological level. You are either becoming more action-oriented or more hesitation-prone with each choice. There is no neutral. The extraordinary achievers I've studied throughout my life weren't born with an action instinct. They developed it through consistent, deliberate practice. They forced themselves into action repeatedly until action became their natural state. This transformation is available to you, starting now. Not after more research, not after more planning. Now, consider the stark reality of inaction. The business you don't start won't just be delayed. Someone else will create it. The relationship you don't initiate won't wait. It will form with someone else. The skills you don't develop, the book you don't write, the health you don't pursue. These aren't paused opportunities, they're abandoned possibilities. Time doesn't pause while you hesitate. It moves relentlessly forward, taking with it opportunities that never return in quite the same form. What idea have you been carrying that demands implementation? What goal have you been postponing until the right time? What conversation have you been avoiding under the guise of preparation? The truth is that the pain of disciplined action is far less than the pain of regretful inaction. The discomfort of moving forward despite uncertainty is nothing compared to the agony of looking back on what might have been. From this moment forward, you have a binary choice: act or accept mediocrity. There is no middle ground, no comfortable compromise. Either you force yourself into immediate decisive action, or you consciously choose to remain among the masses who substitute intention for implementation. This isn't about perfection, it's about motion. Imperfect action today creates more progress than perfect action tomorrow, because perfect action tomorrow rarely arrives. The voice in your mind, creating reasons to delay, isn't wisdom, it's fear dressed in the language of prudence. It doesn't want your success. It wants your safety. It will always provide logical-sounding justifications for inaction. You must override this voice, not with counter-arguments, but with immediate movement. Action silences fear in a way that thought never can. Your excuses, regardless of how reasonable they sound, are irrelevant. They're stories you tell yourself to justify comfort over growth. The achievers who build extraordinary lives face the same obstacles, the same doubts, the same limited resources. They simply refuse to let these conditions determine their actions. Starting right now, you must develop an uncompromising intolerance for your own excuses. When that voice offers a reason to delay, recognize it for what it is: fear speaking in the dialect of rationalization. Then, act anyway, not because you feel ready, but because readiness is a myth created by those who wait rather than work. Not because conditions are perfect, but because waiting for perfect conditions ensures perpetual inaction. The momentum you create through immediate action will generate more progress, more clarity, and more confidence than any amount of planning, preparation, or postponement ever could. This moment, right now, is your point of divergence. You'll either be the person who closes this video and immediately takes decisive action toward your most important goal, or the person who files these principles away for future consideration that rarely arrives. There is no neutral option, no middle path. You're either moving forward through action or sliding backward through inaction. Even standing still is falling behind in a world that never stops advancing. I challenge you, with every fiber of conviction built through decades studying achievement, to take one significant action toward your most important goal within the next 60 minutes. Not planning, not research, not preparation. Action that crosses the threshold from intention to implementation. Make the call you've been avoiding. Write the first paragraph of the book you've been contemplating. Have the conversation you've been postponing. Create the business plan you've been thinking about. Begin the health regimen you've been delaying. Do it not when you feel ready, but because you've decided that action precedes readiness, not the reverse. Do it not when conditions are perfect, but because you've recognized that conditions are made perfect through action itself. Do it not when fear subsides, but because you've accepted that fear is conquered through action, not. The single greatest predictor of your future success isn't your education, your connections, or your circumstances. It's your ability to force yourself into immediate, decisive action, despite fear, uncertainty, and imperfect conditions. This ability isn't granted, it's developed. Not through contemplation, but through consistent, deliberate practice. Starting now. Starting today. The dividing line between extraordinary achievement and lifelong potential isn't drawn by circumstance, but by decision. The decision to act while others wait, to move while others prepare, to begin while others plan. Which side of this line will you choose? The clock is ticking. Your life is unfolding. Opportunities are appearing and disappearing with each passing moment. Your potential is either being realized through action or squandered through hesitation. The extraordinary life you envision isn't waiting for perfect conditions. It's waiting for decisive action. Not eventual action. Not when you feel ready action. Immediate action. Take it now. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Not because success is guaranteed, but because inaction guarantees failure. Force yourself to take action, not just once, but consistently. Not just when motivated, but especially when reluctant. Not just when convenient, but particularly when challenging. This is how ordinary individuals create extraordinary results. This is how dreams transform from ethereal possibility to tangible reality. This is how you become not just someone who knows the principles of success, but someone who lives them. The choice is yours. It always has been. But now, armed with these principles and faced with this challenge, you can no longer claim ignorance. You can only claim decision, either to act or to accept the inevitable consequences of continued hesitation. Choose action. Choose it now. Choose it consistently. Your extraordinary life depends on it. What will you do in the next 60 minutes that crosses the threshold from intention to action? The answer to this question will reveal more about your future success than any amount of knowledge, planning, or potential ever could. The time for contemplation has ended. The time for action is now.